call is now being recorded. Yes, it's being recorded. Hello, guys. My name is Kendi Jacqueline. I am a co-organizer for Flutter Kenya, and today I'm honored to host DATAFEST East Africa in collaborating with Moenda and Mabel. It's an honor to be invited to host this session. Today we are kicking off with an amazing talk from Kigen Tembu. Kigen is a senior data analyst at Andela. He's a data science professional with 6 years experience working in multicultural teams across continents to provide timely and analytical solutions to business problems in real estate, human resource, healthcare, and financial industries. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Kigen to our session. We are all looking forward to learning from him and hearing what he has to teach us about accelerating your data science career. Thank you so much, Kigen, for agreeing to speak, and we are truly honored to have you. And the floor is yours to take over. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Just a mic check. Maybe you guys can say in the chat whether you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear. We can hear you clearly.
All right. So let me just could Mabel stop presenting so I should share my screen and share my presentation. Thank you. So let me just share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. I'm just going to present a mod. All right. Thank you, Kendi, for the introduction. I would spend pretty much said a brief summary of my career in data. So I've been in this industry for about 7 years now, across various industries, pharmaceuticals, human resource, fintech, yes, a bunch of companies that I've worked with in terms of data science. So my talk today is going to be, it's about accelerating your data science career. So you probably have some skills that you've probably acquired somewhere, maybe in your undergraduate or in your own free time. So maybe you're thinking about how to best leverage those skills in the market. So first of all, the first thing I would want us to do mentally or whatever you're doing is do what we call a skills audit. So what skills have you gained? So you can probably bundle up your skills into maybe say the tools. So tools are, for example, maybe say BI tools or Power BI, there's programming languages, maybe R, maybe Python, there's SQL, various IDEs that you know how to use. Those are all your tool sets. So basically that's your toolbox. Whenever somebody gives you a problem, you go to your computer and you open your toolbox and you use it to solve the problem. Second skill set, or rather the generalization skill classification, is the mindset. What mindset? There are those. So the tools that we talk about are more physical tools, like or yeah, I would say physical tools, but then there's what we call a data mindset in terms of having that analytical mindset. So whenever you see a problem, how do you approach it, from a mental approach or from an analytical approach? So this mostly is gained through um, interacting with some data sets, and seeing how best you can use that data set, or maybe deciding. So when you're given a data set and you decide, is this a classification problem, is this a regression problem, that sort of thing, and choosing maybe say the models you want to use. So that's the mindset that we're talking about. Third, and not least important, it's quite important actually, the soft skills. So you have your tools, you have your mindset, you can solve problems, but do you have the soft skills to communicate? So basically, your skills do not live in an island, I would say. So your skill sets have to make sense because you're working in an organization, you're working in a team. Are you able to communicate your solutions to them? So soft skills might include the communication, either written or unwritten. So for written, maybe say, how do you make presentations? How do you write Word documents, email communication, that sort of thing. Yeah. So those are just skill, or what I would call a skill audit. So you probably do have done it mentally, but now you can be able to classify them among the three. This slide is just to be like, what I used to say in this slide is there's never been a better time than the present to be in data science. So what happened in the last year in terms of COVID, it pushed a lot of businesses to digitize processes that they didn't have previously, because basically they had to move. So you might realize companies which previously did not have, maybe say, a mobile application, now have a mobile application, that sort of thing. So it pushed them to digitize lots of things. And by digitizing, as a result of that, as a consequence of adopting new software, new mobile apps, you're collecting data inherently. So once they have that data, they realize, okay, now we have this data, and now we have to generate insights from them. We can find use for them. So that's why I'm saying the process of acceleration of digitalization has increased has increased the data that the companies are producing, and by that, as a side effect, they need more data professionals. Yeah. So here's some maybe tips of now you're finished, maybe you graduated and you're looking to land an entry level role. So probably a step-by-step guide. So identify an industry you're passionate about. So you probably have the thing with data professionals is you can go to lots of industries. It's not like, say, if you're in the medical field, your profession is definitely going to be looking at medical industry, and you have to look into, say, the financial services. So you need to identify an industry that you're passionate about. Why passionate about? Passionate about makes it, if you're passionate about something, you will enjoy the work, you will enjoy your data science career, and you will have, because of those, the consequence of those two things is your work will be outstanding and you'll be able to move up your career. That's why I say just don't go to random industries. Try at least to narrow down to some of them. Maybe say you're interested in financial services or telecommunications, that sort of thing. Then you can target those companies. So once you have that industry, the second step would be to build up domain language about it. So there are probably events going on in that industry that you're not aware of, but you can research about that, maybe do a Google search, interact with people in those industries, find out the trends, find out abbreviations that are used in those industries, what are the terms that are used in those industries, regulators, that sort of thing. So build up that knowledge, because it will help you. Maybe say you've landed an interview and you start talking about those things, and then people are like, wow, okay, this person really knows a lot about this industry. It shows you're passionate about it, it shows you're well prepared, and you stand a better chance of landing that job. So third is use the skills you have to build a data science project relevant to the industry. We see a lot of people taking the Titanic data set or the Irish data set and building a model with it, and then having it in your GitHub. I would use a better approach in terms of, okay, I want to go to, say, financial services. Can I find some data that is related to financial services, either web scraping it or if it's open source data, and build a project in that. So that when you are applying for a job in a financial services, you provide the link to that project and they'll be like, okay, this project is pretty relevant to some of the problems that you're solving. So it gives you an extra mile in terms of landing that role. Yeah, fourth, leverage online platforms to connect with some of the industry players. So use things like LinkedIn, Clubhouse. So there's so many places you can connect with these professionals, Twitter, whatever. So be there and be active and observe what they're saying about the industry. It's still tied down to point number 2 in terms of building up your domain knowledge. And then the last one is study for the interview. Good companies are hard to get into. So it's typically not easy to just get into a company. Interviews are by itself, for necessarily good companies, they get lots of applications, so they have to sieve a lot. So the standard is high. So my advice is to study extra for that. If you think you've studied enough, study a bit more. Yeah. Here I was just providing a case study of what did it say, because what happened with actually Optica during COVID is previously they didn't have. Previously, when you used to walk into an Optica is a, what do you call it, a spectacle or an optical shop. So basically you can walk in and they diagnose your eye problem and probably give you a prescription for to wear spectacles or glasses. So previously their process was not digitized, but what you notice during what's it called, during the COVID-19, what they adopted the use of digital tablets. By the essence of now using digital tablets, they were now storing some sort of data. So by essence of storing data, they had the need for data analytics division or some sort of thing. So yeah, so this was just to tell you the previous point in this, where I was expounding on there's never been a better time than the present to be in data science. So it's accelerating a lot in my view. Yep. The next slide. So you've researched and you've probably gotten an interview. You're thinking of how to prepare for that interview. First point, I think it's pretty obvious, but it's often, I see so many people committing that mistake. So try and never be late. And the problem with being late is you're like starting from negative 2 points. Like if people are starting at point A, you're starting probably 2 points behind that. So I see that a lot happening, even with the online interviews. Now most companies might be doing it through Zoom or something. So always probably log in 5 minutes or 3 minutes before, so that you never might know when you log in the first minute, maybe there's an update on your computer or that sort of thing. So yeah. Secondly is do trial runs for the interviews. So leading up to the interview, you should always be what I call practicing it with your friends. Maybe always ask for extra information. So if it's a 4-stage interview and they've told you, oh, you've progressed to the next stage, try and ask for extra information. Okay, what does the second stage involve? Maybe etc. They'll probably give you, maybe say, oh, it's a technical, should be testing your skills on a certain framework or SQL or Python or that sort of thing. And yeah, so you take that information and you go and practice it. Yeah, so The third one that I see people trying to. Sometimes it's not expected in a profession to know everything. Data science is so wide. So I see people trying to say, "Oh yes, I understand that, I know that," and then it's usually so you're usually trapped later on when they ask more questions about it, and the worst thing is you come out as a liar, which is quite can be quite detrimental to your chances of getting that job. Um, Fourth is understand their business model. So you've maybe gotten a job with a company, understand how they make money. So understand how, because organizations maybe they're in the business of making money. So you understand how they're making money. If it's a non-profit, understand how they're making impact. So you probably have questions around that so that they test whether you really are interested in the organization and that sort of thing. So understand who they are, what are their competitors, maybe find out any online information about their performances, their revenues, that sort of thing. Yep. So now maybe say at this point you've gotten that job, you've gotten an entry-level job, and now you're looking at ways in which to accelerate your career, basically climb up the ladder, and yeah, increase your skill sets, that sort of thing. So I would say the first point is be part of a data science community. So things like data science, DSA, that sort of thing. Always plug in because by virtue of plugging in, you can learn lots of what's it called, lots of new. Data science is an evolving field. Every other time, it's moving, and moving. So I would say be part of that community. By being plugged in, you'll probably get more updates of the trends that are happening in the industry, the trends that are happening in your careers and that sort of thing. So be plugged in. Don't live as an island. Second is related to the first, you also attend talks. So attend talks maybe on new technologies that are coming up or new tools that are coming up. So always be continuously learning. Data science is a career that you're always learning every other time. You can't rest on your laurels, per se. The third point is also, yeah, it's continuous learning, which I already mentioned. It's related to, because of you're part of a data science community, you, by virtue, get invitation to attend talks. When you attend talks, you will have some learning, so you're continuously learning. So these things are all interrelated, per se. Fourth is sharpen your analytical mindset. So once you're in a business or in an organization, try and think of how, by a analytical mindset, is you have data, identify problems with the business, and see how data can be used to solve that. So you find maybe there's some friction somewhere in some department, in different departments, and you can say, oh, data can be used to solve this problem that's happening there. So fifth, which is the most important, I think people miss out a lot, is data science is there to help the business achieve its objective. Data science is not a standalone thing. The company is not paying you to just sit there and build fancy models. It's paying you because you of you're a support business. Actually, data science is a support function, unless it's the core function of the business model. But in most organizations, you're supporting the business. So always have that mentality of they are paying you to be in that organization so that you help the business achieve its objective. Uh, Again, this is tied down to my last point, which is interact with other departments of the organization. Because it's a support function, you will have lots of interaction with across all departments. Actually, most of the times you're serving across all departments: marketing, HR, finance, all those things. You will probably interact with them. So by virtue of that, this comes ties into the point of soft skills again. You need to have that, what do you say, consensus building, community building, learn when to push back, that sort of thing when you're interacting with. Basically, you need to develop your interpersonal interaction skills, be it on email, be it on face-to-face interactions, that sort of thing. So career progression and probably the different kind of jobs that you're thinking. So you maybe landed a entry-level data science thing. So there's such roles as a data science manager, who's most likely going to be managing a team of data scientists, and there's a chief data officer. So this person who sits at the C-suite level of a management, C-suite level being the chief executives and the chief HR, the chief technology officer. So they usually align of executives that report to the chief executive officer. So there's a chief data officer. Then new and emerging roles such as data strategist. So this is a person who sits and his work is to just link in terms of think on a high level, thinking in terms of we can use this data to solve this problem in the business, strategizing of how data can be used to solve certain business problems. There's new roles as data evangelists. So these are people who, because the company wants to develop a data-driven culture, there has to be somebody who's championing across all the organization for them to use data in most of their decisions or to improve data literacy levels in the organization. There are other roles like machine learning engineers, data analysts, data scientists, business intelligence developers, that sort of thing. So there are lots and lots and lots of options across which you can either horizontally move or vertically move. Yeah, so that was my presentation. Now we can go to the QA session, I guess. In case you guys have questions, please feel free. I would encourage them to either raise your hand or, yeah, I can see somebody raised their hand already. Back to you, Kendi, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kigen, for the session. Anyone who has a question, please feel free to. Oh, I see Linda Ochieng has raised her hand. Please unmute your mic and ask the question.
Okay. Hi, Kigen. Hi, team. Thank you for the presentation. For me, I'm ideally an upcoming data scientist, so I just had a small question based on the presentation. What tools would you recommend for one to be competent in? Because as you have said, we have so many tools, and I wouldn't want a situation whereby I'm doing everything. So what would be the ideal path to follow so that I can be competent in this career?
Yes, thank you, Lydia. I think the first point I would like to expound on is tooling is, I think it's overhyped amongst people who want to gain entry. So there's a lot of pressure to learn every new tool. So there's a lot of pressure to learn every tool, but my recommendation is one scripting language, that's either Python or R, and SQL. SQL is very important because you will have to fetch your data, and then third maybe a one BI tool. But BI tools are very easy to pick up, so no one is going to be really. It's not going to be what do we call. It's not going to be a deal breaker if you don't exactly know it, because you can pick it up in a few weeks or in 3-4 weeks. So, but I would say critical is a SQL and one scripting language. Yeah, and you're good to go.
Thank you for that. Then on the projects, like let's say when someone has the scripting language, or maybe you have like, because for me I already have the tools, that is BI, Excel and all that, but now I'm trying to enhance my skills on the scripting languages, and scripting languages. So after this, is there any online platform whereby I can be able to take up projects and maybe try practice on those particular skills?
Yeah. So there are a couple of on-demand project. Let me just type in the chat. There's Data Camp. There's Data Quest. Data Camp. There's Data Quest. I'm sure you probably heard of Udemy. So I would say move from a problem that you have in hand, and then search for the specific online. So, for example, you want to learn maybe say credit scoring. Is a project is something you want to learn. So look for a course on credit scoring that's probably using one of the scripting. So that way I would say you have more interest, because I mean, I can't just wake up. I find it, at least that's where how I learn. I can't just wake up and mechanically go through a programming language. So I go through variables, I go through everything. The way I learned was you have a specific skill that you want to learn. So for example, credit scoring. I watched a course on that. I did a course on that. And by virtue of that, I also pick up the programming language. I hope that answers.
Yeah, great. I'm answered. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Lydia. We have more other questions on the chat. We have one from Victor Mageto. He's asking, Sir, could you mention some data science communities? Is there any data science communities that you are aware of?
Yes, even data science Africa is a community in itself. So there are other.
He has answered that. Yeah. And then we have another question from Timmy Lehin. They're saying, Sir, you talked about learning. I am an intermediate level Python programmer and good with pandas and NumPy. But I am really struggling to transition into a level confident enough to secure a data science role. Can you outline a path so that I can secure a role and what to learn, maybe courses?
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's what we call imposter syndrome, and believe it or not, it affects everyone in the industry, where you always think you're not good enough. So if you have those skills intermediate, you just need to take the leap in terms of like, yeah, just take the next step. If you get an entry level role and you're confident, not really that confident, just go in, because it's different. There's a big difference in terms of what I would say, learning in a online environment and practically doing the work. So what happens is there might be some learning curve when you are starting practical working in an organization, but the only way to deal with it is I wouldn't recommend any further courses, because you're still doing the same thing. So I would recommend, if you get any chance, just take the leap. Go with your once you're saying you're interlevel, that's okay. Yeah, and no one expects you to know everything instantly in any organization. There's always some period of learning. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think it answers
Sorry, Kendi, I can't hear you. Or is it me only?
faced with, but it's always a good thing. You have yourself to encourage. I mean, you motivate yourself. That's how you slowly get over it. We have another one, a very interesting one from Kazungu Derek. Is asking, take us through a data science interview and maybe a starting salary for someone who has never been to any job in the data field.
All right. So the typical interview is you probably have a screening interview, and then screening just basically to see whether you are aligned together with the organization, maybe some your salary expectations and your whatever, and then there's usually some sort of what do you call it? Some sort of technical interview. So this might involve some tests, either on HackerRank, so either to do with Python, SQL, or that sort of thing, or submitting a data science project. And then maybe the third interview is to be with the hiring managers so that he gets a feel of what your skill sets are and what you can bring to the company. So it's maybe a typical 3 or 4 step. In terms of starting salary, it varies across lots of different industries, different companies. I think I saw yesterday a job on LinkedIn for an entry level, but this was like a startup. So I think it was saying 70K net. So that sort of thing. But yeah, so for entry level, the salaries, it varies a lot, especially with the companies. Some companies have set structures per se. Yeah. Or set salary, what do you call it? Salary structure. So the entry level, this is this amount. You move to the next level is that and that. So and it spreads across the organization. So it's not. I will not say there is like a baseline per se right now across that is uniform across most companies in Kenya.
Okay, that's cool. Brian Wanjala is asking, like, for starters, where can he start? And I see Kigen has answered. Kigen, you've answered Data Camp and Data Quest. We have another one from Amal. He's saying, I am a beginner in data science, specifically machine learning, and I would like to do a project. How do I choose a project topic?
Yeah. Yes, Amal. So again, it goes back to what I said about choose an industry, choose a project topic in an industry that you're passionate about. So say for example, I'm passionate maybe say about financial services. So I narrow my project set to financial services related problems. And then within financial services, what am I passionate about? So am I passionate about customer churn, or am I passionate about credit scoring? So you weigh those two, and then you're like, okay, I probably like solving more of customer churn. So you can do customer churn in financial services. So that's, I would say, how you narrow down the problem. But then again, another factor that you need to put into consideration is what is called data availability. So you also need to think, okay, I found this problem in customer churn. Are there any publicly available data sets? If they're not, then you probably need to look at the credit scoring. Are there publicly available credit scoring? The source of the data, can you be able to web scrape it? And yeah, so there are also other factors, but I would say pick a project in an industry you're passionate about and related to something that you're really interested in.
Okay, cool. And we have another question from Roy. He's asking, could you please touch on data science in the NGO space?
Yeah, so I don't really know much about the NGO, but I know that traditionally they've been using data for monitoring and evaluation and that sort of things. I don't know whether they've used it in the classical data science thing of using machine learning to power some of their decisions or use it. But for most traditional NGOs, they probably have them in terms of, oh, we did some research, we collected some data, we need it analyzed, and maybe say some statistical tests applied to it in that sense.
Oh, okay, cool. Amal also is asking, how do I structure my cover letter and what industries accept interns in data science field?
So cover letters need to be, what is it called? Need to be custom made for the specific company. What we see is a lot of people writing generic cover letters to different industries. So if you're writing a cover letter for a job in say for a data science job in the marketing department of say Safaricom, it needs to be tailored to that. So you talk about in your cover letter, you need to talk about projects that you've probably done that are related to marketing in the telecommunication space, what you can bring to that specific department. So cover letters need to be specific to the specific company and hopefully to the specific department that you are applying for. Which industries accept interns in data science field? I would say across all, across all. In Kenya, I would say maybe say fintech or telecoms, and they're faster to adopt just because by virtue of they have lots of data, so they're faster to adopt that. But yeah.
All right. And then Derek is asking, do we have a site where we can obtain Kenya data for projects?
Yes, there used to be a government initiative called Open Data. If you Google Kenya Open Data, is there, but I think they stopped updating. But yeah, there's still lots of data there, mostly in. I think you can export them to Excel sheets. Yeah.
All right, amazing. We have Chris Ndambuki. He wishes to pass a question to you. Chris, please unmute your mic so you can speak. Chris Ndambuki. Yeah, please.
Hello, hi guys.
Hello, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry for that. Sorry for that delay. I'm very much grateful to be here today, and very much grateful to your team for hosting DataFest Africa. This is a great initiative, and I'm really grateful to be part of the whole conversation. So, allow me to pitch this one, Kigen, and it's one of the toughest, I'd say, environments that I myself have gone through. So, how do you handle coding, especially if it's a codility question that is math based? And I think that's been one of the toughest, I'd say, key areas in which one would like to practice, especially on the mathematical end. If it's matters pertaining to algorithm, are there sites that can help you have a more insight on algorithmic questions, things that deal with random variables, probability? Is there a site that you can recommend maybe that can help boost one to handle, I'd say, mathematical coded questions?
Yes. So HackerRank, I think is a wonderful platform in terms of they have lots of tests in terms of all the. I'm sure you'll find data structures and algorithms and probability, statistics, questions there. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for your question. Kazungu Derek is asking, what's the place of maths in data science?
Yeah. So for the fundamental aspects, you need to be well versed in linear algebra, and basically for deep learning, neural networks and that sort of gradient descent. There's that certain things. You need to have an understanding of linear algebra and probability and statistics. So it's I would say it's also an overlooked part where people are quick to learn tools, but they don't know the theory behind it. So it helps you become a better data scientist by virtue of what I call it, by virtue of you understanding what this particular model is doing to your data and what transformations are happening to your data. So you can be able to do better model diagnostics.
All right, cool. I hope Kazungu you've been answered. We have Tabitha Njeri. She's saying, I'm working on a project on data protection policy in the real estate. Any recommendation on where I can get the research information? Also, she's asking, could you please talk about the science in the real estate sector?
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of real estate, how data science is applied in real estate, I'll give you an example of maybe say a website that has real estate listings. So real estate listings, maybe say even just take Gigi, even take Gigi. So from the side of people who are posting to the platform, who is your customers, probably they would need tips on how to improve their listing. So maybe you've dug into the data, and within the data you see, if you add a profile picture to your post of you, it makes people trust you more, and your listing gets more hits. So that sort of thing. So that's just an example of how it's used in that's a real estate. In terms of data sources, there are no open data sources in terms of data protection. Most of the data that organizations have, maybe even a platform that has real estate listings, the data is private, so they would not share it easily per se. What I would advise is to look at maybe say websites that you can web scrape from certain information or certain tables, be it Wikipedia or certain websites that have listings.
Okay, amazing. I hope Tabitha, you've been answered.
All right. Hello.
Hello? Yeah, can
Oh,
hear.
thanks. All right, all right. My apologies for the noise and for the delay as well. Thank you for answering the question. My dilemma is I'm a data analyst where I work in the real estate sector, and I'm aspiring to be a data scientist. And the skills that I have as of now include I don't have much experience in coding. I don't know from where you stand. I don't know if you've got any recommendations or advice on how I can, because I don't have experience in coding, but I would want to maybe start learning maybe from Python, SQL, and what have you. What would be the best advice that you would give to somebody who is a data analyst and has no experience in coding and just wants to start from somewhere so that you can be able to apply it in the real estate sector? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you probably need to enroll to an online platform that can enable you to learn some Python skills, some SQL, and also some of the theory behind some of the machine learning algorithms that you can be used to be implemented in some of the data sets that you have. So my first path I would recommend is to looking for an online platform that probably fits your budget and fits your lifestyle. So if you like the on-demand model where you anytime you can log in or that sort. Or you want face-to-face instruction, there are local schools that you can reach out to, and they'll be willing to engage you in such conversations. Yeah.
All right.
So it would
Thank
take you maybe 3 to 6 months if you really apply yourself to it to gain some sort of skills. And once you do that, you can go back to the data sets that you have in the real estate industry and use those skills.
All right. Oh, thank you so much. That's all. Thank you.
I think Natasha has been raising her hand for Kenyatta.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe she can unmute her mic and. Oh, it's Douglas. Please, Douglas, unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, hello everyone.
Hi.
So I have a question for Kigen. How will you advise a foreign company dealing with the data science field about setting up a company here in Kenya? If talking about advice, I mean sourcing for the personnel and also the market, and also maybe a bit of about setting up an office where specifically the best place to set up. And as well, maybe you can touch also on the market here in Kenya in regards to maybe the best industry to look for market for their products. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I maybe I understood from your question is this person wants to get some data scientists and outsource their services to local companies. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, sure. And also they have a company, so they want to set up their company like to source even Kenyans. Yeah, something of that sort.
Yeah. So I think in terms of location, I would suggest major towns being primarily number one, say Nairobi. In terms of industries that they can target that probably have lots of potential for data science skills and need for it. I've probably mentioned fintech, financial services. Yeah, I think those were the first major ones to adopt it. In terms of another industry that I am seeing heavy adoption is maybe say healthcare, but that's more specialized. So yeah, so those are the industries I would recommend for someone to target because they already have large data sets that are already sitting around, and you can easily sell them a value proposition.
Okay, thank you. And about sourcing, like personnel,
Oh yeah.
Are we in that level, like we have the right people for the field, or here in Kenya, do we have like the top talent, something of that sort?
Yes. So yeah, there are lots of, I would say, top tier talent. So it depends on how they want to start. Do they want extremely senior or principal data scientists, or they also have a market for entry levels. So they could easily go to universities and pick out people from certain courses, be say mathematics, computer science, statistics, certain electrical engineering. Lots of courses graduates could easily transition into that. Yeah, so there is enough labor in Kenya to justify such a need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Douglas, for your question. Thank you, Kigen, for answering it. Also, as we continue with the session, you can take a screenshot of the event and share it on Twitter, and also don't forget to tag Data Science Fest Africa. Okay, So we have another question from Colin Mburugu. He's asking, what's the difference between a data analyst and data science and data?
Yes, so a data analyst, I would say, deals more with historical data. So you just do analyzing historical data, with the difference being with the data scientist probably builds predictive models, and a data engineer sets up the platform. So a data engineer just makes sure all the data for the organization is you could call it the development operations for data scientists. So make sure that all the data pipelines are working well and correctly, and probably add is also useful in terms of adding additional sources of data. Yep.
Okay, cool. We have another interesting one from Avochi. They're asking, is it possible to build a startup in data science field, or it is necessary to work in a company?
Okay, interesting question. So in terms of the startup being a consultancy in data science, I mean, sure, it's possible. Yeah, so you don't necessarily say you work for an organization, but rather you're outsourcing the sources. Yes, it's possible.
All right, cool. And another one from Doreen. Can data science be fully self-taught, and what would be the recommended path? I think we've answered this one. All right, another one. How does one find a guide through the data science career?
So that's for mentorship. It again goes back to being part of data science communities. So by virtue of most communities, organizers will have some form of what do you call mentorship program in terms of the itself. So by virtue of being a member of that data science community, you can probably get access to a mentor. You can have maybe say office hours or a one-on-one with them to talk through your specific situation, and yeah, to guide you or give you advice in terms of what's the next path.
Okay, cool. So this brings us back to communities, being active in communities and learning from more people. Also, we have another one from Kazungu. Derek is asking, should we learn R or Python or both? Is data science overhyped or it's a real field?
So this R versus Python debate, I would say pick one and learn it extremely well. Based on my own background, I was more able to pick up R faster because of my own background in pharmaceuticals. And so in terms of, so pick one and learn it pretty well. That's the first bit. Is it overhyped or is it a real field? Yes and no. So in terms of overhyping being what we see entry level people, the image they have of data science is completely different from what we do in practice. So it's not all the time fancy model building and whatever and fancy modeling algorithms. Yeah, so it's not majority of the time that you're doing that. Most of the time is actually data cleaning and just getting your data in a shape that is able you're able to build a model from it. So that's the yes and no. So it's no, because there's huge demand for those skills. I don't think it's going to stop anytime. It's just that the image that entry level people have is different from what is in the field.
Cool. We have another one from Amal. He's asking, my interest lies in the medical industry. Could you please give me an idea of a project?
So it lies in the medical. So the medical industry is also huge, per se, because there's what we call biotechnology. There's pharmaceutical. There's even just in the hospital management. They would still say they're in they're in the medical industry. So I'll give you an example of, say, you're working for a hospital, maybe say a major hospital, and you have data on certain patients, and maybe say in a certain wing, or basically, let's say an analysis of hospital beds. So you probably have a problem of where they've realized a certain wing, maybe patients in terms of their, what do you call it? So probably they will have a metric of, say, number of days that a patient stayed in a certain bed or in a certain wing. So you notice that in a certain wing, certain patients overstay longer. So that's probably a problem that data can use to solve that. And you can find maybe, say, the factors that are affecting that sort of thing over the metric that they're saying. Maybe it could be they're not getting the same level of care, the same level of service, and that sort of thing. Yeah. So this is just an example, but yes, it's quite, I'm sure if you research around, you'll find examples of other, because the medical industry is quite wide. Yeah.
Okay. I see that. So we have another one from Daniel Obari is asking, as a data scientist working in an organization, are you responsible for outsourcing the data to define the necessary insights, or it is the obligation of the organization to provide the data for analysis?
Yeah. So it should be, as a data scientist, in its raw and completely inflexible definition, you shouldn't be worrying about getting the data. Basically, they would hire you because they already have data. So yeah, it shouldn't be your responsibility to organize or even put the data. They should have somebody either in the technology team or in data engineering who's organizing the data.
Okay, cool, amazing. We have another one. What is it like working in a corporate world versus a startup?
They're pretty much, I would say, the differences. I would highlight the differences in terms of startups maybe say have more flexibility, have less hierarchy, have less bureaucracy. Certain corporates, especially huge corporates, maybe say huge banks, you probably need there's a lot of bureaucracy. Before this gets approved, you need to go through this and that and that and that. And things are not as flexible. So things are, what I would say, things do not change every single day. So things are probably be doing the same thing for maybe say 1 or 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Another one. Which one between R and Python has scope for scalability and greater community support?
Yeah, so actually R has been known to have a very warm and welcoming online community, and it's part of why I personally love R in terms of the community that is online is very helpful, and that Python also has some community support in terms of these PyData meetups all across, I think, the globe. There's PyCon conferences. Yeah. So they would say they complement each other.
Okay, cool. Daniel is asking, checking on the job description given by various companies, some are too far gone in the sense that on an individual level, especially a beginner, it's like you have not met the necessary requirement. Does it mean that we should embrace learning every technology so as to qualify for the same?
Yeah, no, good question. Not necessarily. Job descriptions sometimes are just Googled around. So people just Google for, oh, data scientist, the first decision they put it on the JD. So I would say maybe say 50 to 75% of the skill sets you should apply. Yeah.
Okay, meaning you shouldn't shy back from applying even if you feel like you haven't met the qualification.
Yes. So if you have 50 to 70% of the skills that are listed there, yeah, you're good to go.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. There's one last one. I've been learning data science through online platform and been engaging with quite a number of SME business owners who really want to help with data. How can I advise them on how to set up, considering most SME have data that's scanty?
Okay. So this is a data question, a very good question related to data infrastructure. So you probably research around on tools that help them, that will help them. There are certain technology tools that will help them collect their data, probably recommend some certain data warehouses that they can use to have that. So probably, yeah. So basically, it's more on the data engineering side in terms of we have this data that we're generating, but how do we build a pipeline for that data to move into a warehouse or a database?
Okay, cool. Amal is saying, I was informed that before selecting a topic, one should highlight previous researches done. Is it compulsory?
It depends on what you're selecting the project topic for. Is it a university related course? If it's so, I think maybe what you're mentioning is references to previous project or what is called a literature review. And then yes, but if it's a project that's not related in an academic sense, it's maybe just a project either internally in an organization. You probably do not need to I would say bureaucratically highlight every single source.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. I think that was the last question, and thank you guys so much for contributing to questions and listening to our session. I had one question in regards to your slide. You said that when you're interviewing, then if you want the what do you call, the recruiters to know if you're really serious about it, is it okay to ask how much they earn? How they earn and who their competitors are?
In terms of how much they earn in terms of the organization or what I think, or
Yes, the organization, yes.
the organization, how much profit they make, or
Yes.
um so I'm sure if you do this in the situation where maybe you did a search for them and they're not really there's no sources out there saying whether they are making any profit or that sort of thing. Yes, I would advise you can try asking that, but later on probably, and phrase it in a better way. Just say, is the company profitable, or is it moving in a direction where it's going to be profitable? Yes, put it basically in a more politically correct way.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that. I think we've come to the end of our session. We don't have questions, and we are really grateful to you again for the amazing session and the way you both answered our questions. Really an honor to have you in the session, and we're looking forward to learning more from you. So please apply to speak more to our sessions. Thank you so much, guys, for joining the talk and listening all through. It was an honor having you all here. This This is the end of the session. However, we have another session later in the evening. It will be a talk about principal. Oh, sorry. It will be a talk by Yetunda Dada, who works at Kedro Products as a product manager. We are looking forward to hosting you guys. Feel free to join again, and let's learn again, and let's have fun on this session. And also, don't forget to tweet and tag DataFest Africa. Thank you, guys. You're free to leave at your own will.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.